Hello, the story you're about to hear is inspired by true events. It takes place on a cold, unforgiving sea, where fate brought together a lonely dog and a man. What follows is a dramatic journey of rescue, of unbreakable loyalty, and a farewell that echoes in silence. This is the story of Baltic and the loneliness upon the ice. Baltic Loneliness on the Ice, a story inspired by real events. Part 1. Loss. Vistula River, Poland, January 2010. The cold is sharper this morning than ever before. The frozen ground echoes every step. Fog crawls over the river like a heavy shroud, as if the world had forgotten how to breathe and all life is silently waiting. The door of an old fishing hut creaks open. The footsteps are slow and weary. A man in his 70s, troubled by his knees, steps outside carrying a small basket. Inside the basket are a few loaves of bread, some salted fish, and a thermos. And right behind him, a thick-furred, large dog. Silent, cautious, eyes tired, yet glowing with loyalty. The dog has no name. The man never felt the need. He simply called him Son. As the man crouches by the river to prepare his fishing line, the dog sits beside him. No words are exchanged, but there's warmth, an ordinary, habitual friendship. If one breathes, the other senses it. If one feels unease, the other grows tense. Bonds like this have no names. They simply are. Suddenly, the wind shifts. The ice on the river begins to crackle with sharp sounds. As the man tries to rise to his knees, his hand trembles, reaching for his cane, but it's too late. His foot slips. His body flings sideways. The dog jolts at the sound of a sharp bark. The man's body plunges into the water through a weak, unfrozen patch. The ice groans. The dog scrambles, claws scraping, trying to get closer, but all that's heard is a muffled, cold cry. Then, silence. The dog waits at the edge for minutes, barking, howling, staring into the water for hours. The scent slowly fades. Shadows lengthen. A distant gull cries. That night, the dog lies in front of the cabin. He always spent the night inside, but not that night. He doesn't scratch the door. He just waits. Maybe still hoping to hear the footsteps of the man he lost, but the morning never comes. In the pitch black of night, snow begins to fall. Then the wind changes direction. The river swells. The water crashes against the shore. The dog, driven by a primal instinct, walks away from the cabin. Perhaps he hopes to catch the man's scent again, or hear his voice. Then, in a single misstep, he places a paw on a chunk of ice near the shore. The ice doesn't break, but detaches, floating silently like a raft, drifting away from the land. He doesn't know this is a departure. He's still searching. And so begins the journey of a lone dog drifting silently on a slab of ice, seeking the man he lost. Days later, hunger, cold, and memory. Before the sea, there is the river. Before the river, the forest. And before that, only silence. Baltic, for he has no name yet, has been on the ice for days. Time means nothing. The sky is grey, the nights are frozen tombs in the darkness, and still he waits, still he searches for the scent, still his ears twitch at every sound. Sometimes a bird lands nearby, sometimes a distant sound reaches him, a motor, a whistle. He lifts his head instantly, his eyes brighten. But then silence returns, and he is alone again. Hunger feels like it's carving holes into his body. First he licks the snow, that smells faintly of fish. Then he tries to drink the seawater, but the sea is bitter, and hope grows blurry. One night, stars appear in the sky. He looks up, and it's as if one of those quiet stars whispers with his master's voice, "Son, don't look for me. You must go now." But he still remains, because loyalty sometimes doesn't know how to leave. The ice raft Baltic stands on has now reached the sea. The waves grow stronger, the ice begins to crack. A shape appears on the horizon, but it's still so far away. And Baltic, with the last of his strength, struggles to stay standing. Perhaps the last thought in his heart is, if someone sees me, maybe life still exists somewhere. And just then, far off in the distance, the silhouette of a ship appears. Chapter 2. The Search. The Baltic Sea. Unknown coordinates. Sometimes the waves speak by foaming, crashing, falling silent, but the sea beneath Baltic no longer whispers. It is now as silent as a grave. Baltic stands, or rather exists, on a drifting slab of ice, like a ghost. He is not upright, not sitting. His presence is merely there. His fur has stiffened with salt. His eyes are glazed over. Hunger, thirst, and cold have battled over him, each taking a piece. And yet, in his heart, a faint spark remains, a voice, a hand, a warmth. He doesn't know how much time has passed. Dogs don't bargain with time. They either wait or they go. He chose to wait. And just then, far, far in the distance, comes the low hum of what could be an engine. Research vessel Baltica, January 26, 2010, Captain Grzegorz Węgrzyn stands with his hands clasped behind his back on the ship's forward deck. The wind lashes his weathered face like a whip. His father used to say, "Every man looks older at sea." And today is one of those mornings. Grey sky, open waters, an endless feeling. The radio crackles to life from inside. "Captain, we've received a message from the coastal monitoring tower. A large piece of ice was spotted to the northeast. They say there might be a dog on it." Silence. Grzegorz pretends not to hear at first, then asks again, "Did you say a dog in the middle of the sea?" The lookout confirms. A satellite image shows a small, motionless figure, hundreds of kilometers offshore. The crew chuckles lightly. No one believes it. This sea swallows life. It doesn't give it back. But Adam Baczynski doesn't laugh. The young sailor silently bends over the map, his eyes steady, like a child waiting for their mother. "What do we lose by changing course?" he says. After a brief pause, the captain nods. The ship turns north. Hours later, first contact. As the fog clears, a pale white dot appears on the horizon. The ship slows. The ice floe is now clearly visible, and on it, yes, a dog. The crew falls silent. The only sound, apart from the engine, is a whispered murmur from a young cadet. How is it even still alive? But it is. Or perhaps something is keeping it alive. Baltic lifts his head. His eyes meet the ship. His trembling body remains on the ice. Just as he's about to collapse, a gust of wind pushes against him, as if to say, "Hold on, just a little longer." Activity begins on deck. 2 rescue lines are prepared. A small boat is lowered into the water, but the ice is too unstable. As the first boat approaches, part of the floe cracks. The dog panics and backs away. Adam's eyes darken as he watches. He can't wait any longer. "I'm going in," he says. His voice is soft but commanding. No one speaks. Adam puts on a life vest. The water isn't just cold, it is the ice itself. But he jumps. Every stroke is a knife of pain. Still, He never takes his eyes off the dog. When Baltic first sees the approaching man, he tenses, fear, primal. He considers running, but when their eyes lock, something shifts. Each stroke grows heavier, but Adam presses on. Only his voice rises above the water. "It's okay. I'm here. I see you." Baltic doesn't move. His eyes fill, as if saying, "You'll leave me too, won't you?" A few more strokes. Adam reaches the edge of the ice. He extends his arm. "Please." Baltic hesitates. Then, by instinct, unsure but trusting, he lowers his head toward him. Adam pulls him into his arms. With the contact, a warmth passes between them, a sense of safety. They are no longer alone. They reach the boat together. Baltic lies trembling but silent in Adam's lap. As they return to the ship, no one speaks. No one meets each other's eyes. Some things should not be tainted by words. That night, on deck, Baltic lies wrapped in blankets, curled in the corner of Adam's cabin. For the first time, he is somewhere warm. For the first time, a hand rests over him. Adam looks into his eyes. Those eyes. How long they've waited, how much they've endured. "I don't know your name," Adam whispers, "but we found you here, in the Baltic. That'll be your name now." Baltic closes his eyes, perhaps for the first time in years, peacefully, or maybe just from exhaustion. But that night, one more sound joins the ship's engine hum, a quiet, deep, and safe breath of sleep. One last thing. There were two beings that day, one on a frozen piece of ice, the other in a frozen heart, and both began to thaw. Chapter 3, Salvation and Loyalty. The Baltica. 3 days later. Baltic now sleeps on a soft blanket in the corner of a cabin. On his first night aboard, he had trembled for hours, not just from the cold, but from everything he had lived through. But on the third morning, as he slowly woke, he moved his tail for the first time. Adam blinked when he saw it. Something inside him softened. "Good morning, boy," he whispered. "You're here now, and this is your home." From that day on, everyone on the ship learned the name Baltic. A special orange life vest was made just for him. When the wind blew harshly on deck, Baltic would lift his nose slightly into the air, as if trying to make peace with the sea once more. But most of all, he clung to Adam. He recognized his footsteps. He grew used to his gentle voice, the warmth of his rough hands. Wherever Adam went, Baltic followed, even into the captain's cabin, where no one protested. Because Baltic was no longer just a fellow traveler, he had become the thread that tied the crew's hearts together. Spring on the Baltic, the ship's mascot. Baltic's presence brought a gentleness to the harsh lives of the seafarers. While scientists recorded data, they would find his head resting at their feet. During the still hours of the night, some realized they no longer felt alone, because he was there. At times, Baltic would sit alone on deck, staring out over the waves. When Adam found him like that, his eyes always seemed to search the distance, as if still looking for someone. Perhaps the owner he had lost, perhaps the emptiness inside himself. In those moments, Adam would quietly sit beside him, touch his knee, and say, "Some scars never fade, Baltic, but new journeys can be drawn over them." Years later, silent goodbyes. Time passed. Baltic grew old, his eyes clouded, his steps slowed, his coat no longer shone. It dulled and sagged. But he never left Adam's side. He sailed on every voyage, and when the old dog lay on deck, everyone approached with reverence. Because he wasn't just a survivor, he was a teacher. What loyalty looked like, how patience waited, how love forgave. Baltic had taught them all. One day, Adam returned from a trip earlier than expected. A letter had called him back. His mother had passed away. He was granted 3 days' leave. For the first time, Baltic wasn't by his side. The separation was short. But time had begun to move differently for both of them. When Adam returned, he found Baltic under his bunk, sleeping, silent, peaceful, as if he had waited. Adam knelt down. He placed a hand on his head. His fur was cold, but not stiff. Baltic didn't wake, but on his face, yes, there was an expression, a faint smile, as if saying, "With you, I was complete." Adam wept quietly, and when his tears hit the floor, they weren't just water, they were years of held-in loneliness, finally let go. No one spoke loudly on the ship that day. The captain stepped out onto the deck, hands deep in his pockets. As the cold wind struck his face, he uttered a single sentence. Some souls become a ship's compass. Even after they're gone, they still point the way. After Baltic wasn't buried. He was taken to a small nearby island. Adam and the crew held a quiet ceremony. They built a small monument of stones, simple, humble. It bore just one inscription. Baltic. He was not a dog. He was loyalty. Adam returned to that island every year. In old age, he could no longer sit on deck, but he still walked to that place with his cane. And each time he sat before the stone and whispered, "I thought I saved you, but it was you who kept me alive." Baltic's story is not just one of rescue. He is a mark, reminding the forgetful of loyalty, the fearful of courage, and the frozen of love. And marks do not fade. The sea still whispers his name through the waves. Baltic, Baltic, Baltic. Baltic's story isn't just about rescue. It's the story of silent loyalty, of a warmth that touches the frozen corners of the heart, of hope, even in the coldest places. Remember, sometimes saving a life means saving your own heart too. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment so Baltic's story can reach more people. Because some stories deserve to live on.